back in the car. Had to bust out the older suction cup, a little more wobbly than the current stable version. But plan for today with back, well, I guess I kind of just said it. I'm talking pull downs, rows, pullovers, the works, and it should not take too long. I kind of have to decide once I get started, because I've been kind of on a kick of saying this, and I really think it's like the idea has more depth than at surface value. But what I'm getting at is when I come in to hit a workout, it's not like a powerlifting kind of approach where I need to hit 93% of my 1 rep max for 2 with reps in reserve, or like a 5x5 at 80% of your max, like things like that. I appreciate the just directness of strength training programs like that, because, and I think a lot of people also get the same thing, like they'll I don't remember, or I don't know the names of any of these kind of classic programs, but like name the one powerlifting program that that one, right? They work, and it's it's just because if you do everything that's written out, you are doing intense sets. But it's very clearly written out that you start in the beginning. Correct me if I'm wrong, I've never really looked at like a powerlifting program in depth, but you'll start with a basic, either testing your 1 rep max in the beginning, or just going off what your 1 rep max is. And then you've got this 8-week, 12-week program written out where it's, lifts where each day you hit sets at a very specific threshold of what your maximum set, kind of like weight is for a certain amount of reps. And I would imagine that if I did that in the beginning, I would be very kind of like, locked into the idea that that's what works, because it's all written out. If I follow the program, if I, do everything that plan entails, then I will get stronger. I think with bodybuilding, it gets a little different. And by bodybuilding, I just mean lifting to get bigger and stronger. Not so much stronger. That would kind of get more on like the power building stage of things. But for the most part, just a basic lifter who wants to get bigger is a bodybuilder, right? He's hitting everything twice-ish a week, going nuts, right? Getting pumped up and growing. That's what we're all here for. But I think the lifting kind of has its own sort of mystique, because there's so many different ways to do it, and so many people get different kinds of gains by doing completely different things, that it opens up the topic for discussion of like, well, should I do this, or should we don't see that so much in the powerlifting space. It's always like 5x5s, 80% of your 1 rep, 80% of your 1 rep max, or just whatever, and then the guy gets stronger, right? They do what they do and it works. I'm sure they've I never get any TikTok feeds or YouTube videos more in the powerlifting space. I'm sure there's a lot of room for debate, but not so much as the bodybuilding. So that's where I'm a bit more concerned with the idea of just giving myself maximal stimulation in the gym with not minimal, but with at least recoverable fatigue, because there is a number where you're not really doing much good. If I came in here and I tried to do 50 sets of back, I think we can all agree that's going to be overkill. That will not do me any better. Potentially it'll do me worse than if I did 20 sets, or if I did 15, or whatever. But the fact that it's not written out super clearly is I think it's a little bit of a turnoff, and kind of turns it into this argument, rather than like just actually kind of comparing people's progress and everything else. And it's also a different kind of progress vector, because it's not just your training. Like if I give somebody who's never worked out before basic weight training for a certain period, the guy's going to get stronger. Or if you gave someone a real powerlifting program, the guy's pretty damn likely to get stronger. But when it comes to size gains, it's not all training, it's also recovery and like food intake, and so there's just a couple more variables, right? So instead of like a controlled experiment where you know, the only thing that gets changed is like your training intensity or your calories or whatever. You're changing all sorts of shit at the same time, you know. So I think there's just a little bit more to think about with the lifting, where, you know, guys can fall into a rabbit hole of, you know, thinking any one way is better, but you know, I think that's not a low IQ argument, but just kind of like unnecessary, you know. Like, we're freaking out about whether we should do whatever, and I don't even like talking about it, because when I say this kind of stuff, I'm just playing into it, but I can't help but say it. It's like I'm getting rage baited by all of these, you know, like, just, I don't want to say it specifically, right? We get the gist. But all I'm trying to say is I'm going to stick with what I know works for me. Decently heavy pull downs, as well as lighter pull downs with a squeeze and a longer hold. I've actually started to understand the value of like feeling a long stretch and a slower eccentric. Not on all movements, but with some, I really like it. Hamstrings, back. Hamstrings, back, and triceps. Those are the sets where I really get a good connection. When I do a slow eccentric, I can really feel everything just kind of like burning and micro relax and just things like that. So that feels pretty good, right? But, you know, all that's to say is I'm going to finish today with a pump, sweaty, and hungry to get some meals in, and then go home, refuel, and continue the loop. Right, so those are basically my check marks, or my check boxes that I want to check off, which will tell me if I'm on track or if I'm slacking off. You know, so as long as I can get those 3 in on a near daily basis, sometimes a rest day is necessary, but as long as I can say I went hard, I went hard and I ate my food, that's basically it. You know, so don't forget those 2 things. No matter how intricate or simple you want to make your weight training, make sure you're going hard and you eat your food, because those are kind of the biggest barriers to entry of, you know, accruing size. Because, you know, sometimes guys can lift crazy hard but they can't eat, or sometimes guys have a crazy appetite, they love to grub, but the working out, it just feels like a chore for them. You know, so if you can get those 2 in combination, right? I'm talking you got fire and ice powers. They cancel each other out and make each other stronger. You know, that sort of thing. But I think no more talking. Let's just get in there and get this back day started. All right, exercising some restraint. But this Planet Fitness is like heavy stacks. This thing's 300 freaking pounds. So I'm gonna stick with 250, not go too wild. Okay. One more of those. Okay. Oh boy. One more. Eesh. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's do a machine. Oh, that was a good one. I think I gotta alternate single-sided rows here. Double arm is not the same. Actually, I'll just do all one side, then all the other. All right, come on. There. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's just do the one of those. But that felt pretty good. Ooh. Let's do this pull down machine. And this one's pretty good. Very squeeze focused, that's for sure. All right, come on. All right. Holy crap. Alright, I think that's enough. Whew. Oh yeah. Alright, that was a good one. Feeling reasonably strong, reasonably pumped as well. Didn't really seem like a pump checkable gym. There's a certain just environmental recognition you need to have, or you can say, all right, is this the place to pop the top off, or is this not? And I was a little too busy and kind of packed. And I'm not talking like full-on population, but you know, we all know the gist. Like, what's worse, curling in front of somebody's mirror space, or taking your shirt off and posing in somebody's mirror space? That's a little different. That's just one level extra wild. But let's see if I don't crash merge into this road. And there we go. So now I just gotta get some food in my system. So coming up on nearly 4 months off season. Steady, not getting too soft, but still seeing size gains. So yeah, I think I'll keep chowing down for at least another month, maybe a month and a half, but we're definitely getting close to the end because I want to have a bit more time to ease into this sort of dieting phase, because I want to stay lean for a little bit coming into next year. So if I have to crash diet and shoot my calories straight down, that's not really a recipe for long-term leanness, right? If I'm eating, X thousand calories now, trying to gain weight, I don't have to jump straight down to zilch. Now that works, but it's kind of, you're kind of getting your metabolism rapidly slowed rather than gradually slowed. Now if you're doing like a quick 2-month, 2.5 month, like, I don't want to say crash diet, but like just quick phase to lose some body fat, you're not going to be, in an extended deficit, then I think you're totally cool, right? Jump down, start losing weight. But if you want to get to a point where you're going to stay lean for a while, I think easing is definitely your best bet. And that's something which I kind of have a little bit of a better grip on now that I've done it. Same thing with bulking up in terms of, not just chowing down on 1,000,000 calories instantly and easing into more and more food over time so you can really make use of it. So that's kind of been my change in ideology as of late. But feeling big, feeling strong. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like 70% sure that building up my squat strength has translated to additional strength gains just throughout my entire build. Probably because, insanely, well, not insanely, but like pretty heavy squats, 4 reps is definitely kind of training up my, I don't want to say central nervous system, but ability to exert intensity, if I'm kind of getting that idea right. So, the fact that just a couple of days ago I was doing insane squats, now, you throw a couple plates on a bench or some cables on a pulley, it doesn't feel as wild, right? And to an extent, I think that at least building up a good tolerance neurologically for, like, just pain and effort and like pushing it when it starts getting tricky, that's not negligible. As much as we're talking lifting wise, like, oh well, it's not about the weight, it's about how you lift it. Yes, very true, right? Like if I'm doing lightish squeezing curls, obviously I want to make them really good, have a good burn, like feel like I'm trying to bend my arm further than it can even go. But with just a heavy set where the difficulty is the fact that like even doing 5 reps is starting to get hard, there is a serious difference between someone who fails pre-legit failure and someone who actually brings it as hard as they can. And it's kind of an unfillable cup, because you definitely have more in the tank than you can ever really bring out when it comes to like at least a high rep set. Because let's say I did what's a good style of set? Let's just say a squat. The squat's a pretty good indicator. Let's say I could do 10 reps and I don't think I could really do 11. I think I'm physically capable of doing 11, right? As a body. But, your body's only being controlled by your brain. So if you've got like this just whatever, you might not be able to get that last rep out. But if that's the case, then the way I look at it is, all right, if you already can't hit real, complete, perfect failure because, your brain's going to kind of hold yourself back to a degree, then why hold yourself back even further? Like the guys who really kill it, I think that they're setting themselves up for, if not more, at least a more potent level of success from their training, because they've just got more, oh man, they've just got a finer, maybe not a fine, what's a good kind of analogy here? I'm trying to think of something where it's like you're collecting gold. The guy who is just going to do some scrappy sets, he's just looking for straight up nuggets, right? If he sees one big chunk, he's like, oh, very nice. But, the guys who really bring it on every single set, they don't really slack off on any of them. They give each one, an amount of like value and attention that they all deserve. Then that's like someone who's really panning for gold, or they've got like a huge, kind of, filtering sieve machine like in real gold mines, where there is no waste. There is no just, yes, I could have got some more out, whatever. Like they're getting every little grain of gains that they can, and the only reason they're doing it is because they know that they want to. It's not like an obligation. It doesn't feel like a chore. They're bringing it because they want to bring it. And that's the kind of lifter that I think I want to be. Because with the working out, the gains are probably threefold, honestly, right? Physical size gains, which we all like. It's pretty basic. And then there's kind of like your mental toughness gains, and then just sort of a certain amount of, contentness with yourself, where if you make legit progress over, X year time frame, be it going like a real bodybuilder route or getting like a huge body fat transformation, going from like extra heavy to now pretty lean, like you've got visible abs. Like, to have gone through the process of that, regardless of what your starting point is, you're just a different guy than most, I mean, there's a reason, like, skipping the gym and not doing my cardio, that's not like a gym culture kind of joke. That's everybody, right? It's just a common kind of sort of point to just bring up. Everybody knows they should be working out. Everybody knows they should be doing cardio, not because it's some rule, but because they would just enjoy it, right? Apart from the fact that it's maybe a bit hard to do in the moment, but it's like we all know it. We all know we should be taking our vitamins and just whatever, but actually doing it, that's a little different, because when you're a kid or even a high schooler, right? This is why we bring up like the freshman 15, where as soon as, guys go off on their own and you're no longer basically being catered to by your parents, shit, man, you gotta be responsible for your own build, so that's my little shtick there, right? You got a body that demands physicality. At least bring it a little, break a sweat sometime. You don't have to be a crazy ass bodybuilder, but I do think everyone should be weight training, at least to some degree. Shit, man. Teenagers lift for free at Planet Fitness this summer. That's not a Planet Fitness promo. They've got their own problems. Like, their hours are, relative to any other like 24-hour gym, not awesome. But if that's a barrier to entry, just do that. Or you could just make a bunch of fake emails where you do a Planet Fitness day pass over and over and over again. Maybe go to different Planet Fitnesses around your area, and so they don't catch you, and then never pay membership. Right? I think that that method might have been patched, but I remember doing that sometimes when I didn't have one, but I wanted to go to a Planet Fitness, that sort of stuff. But either way, very good lift. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. That lift demands a post-workout nap. That is for freaking sure. But yeah, as excited as I am about being bulked up, after being extra lean earlier this year, I'm on the freaking lean pill now. I want to get freaking diced again. But that's it's different for me to say that, because I've already built up a substantial amount of beef underneath. You gotta. There's a reason you say bulk before cut. But now I'm just busting out freaking whatever kind of one-liners come to mind. Either way, go hard, go home, repeat. That's a good mantra for anybody to live by. So I'll see you tomorrow.